I'm Dan Corbin. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I share a lot of resources and a lot of information to really try to be involved with the product community. I am a principal product manager at H-E-B. If you're not familiar with H-E-B, it is a grocery store in Texas, and it has been named the best grocery store in the country. And it's a fantastic place. It's a really great company that gives a lot to the Texas community, and I'm really proud to be there. I'm also a product management instructor at General Assembly. I founded a meetup called the Product League, which we do a lot of presentations. In fact, let me just hop over here. I have one coming up next month. We're pairing with Product Hire Job Club. Think like a product manager. So this will really actually help if you're actually in the day-to-day of product management, or even if you're interviewing and you're giving different scenarios and you have to go through that. Also, I'm giving a presentation. Do you notice like I have the same background here? My wife, this is Pinterest inspired. So these are all the states that we've lived in. So Nebraska, I have one kind of assessing different opportunities. So you build the right thing at the right time. Let's see. I'm also a product coach and I do agile coaching. It's enough. Oh, I did want to mention H-E-B is hiring product managers. So please do, you know what, let me just go ahead and just share this whole presentation. Let's just let everybody, have access right away. In that link on this page, you can go to this and see what the open product roles are, and we'll be posting more. We're probably, I think we're hiring like another 800 people this year just for the digital product side. All right. So let me see if I can get going here. So today we are going to cover best practices for resumes, do's and don'ts, things that annoy me as a hiring manager when I get resumes. Like I virtually tear them up and I dismiss them and get very annoyed. So don't be like one of those people who submits a resume like that. We're going to talk about different tips for different sections. We're really going to spend a lot of time on how do you maximize and really highlight, before you become a product manager, all of that experience, how that plays into how it makes you a great product manager. And so whether you're already a product manager, but you have previous experience, or if you're trying to get into product for the first time, we're really gonna do a lot on that. And then I have a bunch of resources, which you can link to, that are linked in there. So my pet peeve as a hiring manager and as someone who's going through hundreds of resumes, the thing that really started to piss me off was everyone just listing the responsibilities. It was like they were copying and pasting from their job description, and they weren't talking about like, well, what are the outcomes that you had? The whole point of a product manager is to positively impact customers in a business. So you want to list accomplishments, you want to list outcomes, not just responsibilities. So, things that, how to figure that out. If you're kind of doing things in a present tense, probably a responsibility. And so, trying to figure out like, what are the outcomes? Like, what are the 5 things that you're most comfortable with? But more importantly, a good product manager is data-driven, understands KPIs, is very comfortable with metrics and using data to tell a story. And that's really what your resume should be doing. So let's go through some examples. So this is one, the examples I used in here were from someone who's getting it from sales into product management. And because that was a common one I was seeing a lot. So this one is responsibility for marketing, pricing, led agile ceremonies. That's great, but it can be improved. Worked with engineering to increase, wait, this is not the one I'm talking about. Sorry. I got my things mixed up already. Sales is a different one, but you see here, there's actually really relevant stuff in this, but it's not as impactful as it could be. So what we did was we revamped it to say, implemented a new pricing strategy that resulted in $1.4 million in new contracts within the first year. Initiated agile transformation and increased velocity tremendously. And actually, this is stuff from my resume from a job that I had previously. And so then also, put in specific metrics about how many million users we had, but like what is our uptime? And then also I contributed something around how I communicate as a communicator and evangelist for my products. I went out and spoke at different conferences. Another example, the sales example that I meant to refer to, I'm still caffeinating up this morning. So actually on that, I'm going to take a little break. Delicious. This one is just attain sales goals, negotiated pricing and inventory, tracked things and evaluated, planned. Well, we took that and we revamped it. So I said, like, we need to put in some metrics. We need to kind of show the impact that you had and that you have that product manager mindset, even though like what we're describing is a sales role. So we talked about her 10% increase year over year. We talked about other things. We talked about like the testing strategies and how she used A/B testing to improve things. So very key to show, because before we get into product management, we're doing aspects of product management. So your resume needs to really highlight that work. So it shows that story that, oh, this is a logical place. And you always want to be building on that story so that when you go for that next job, they're like, oh yes, this is the right person. They have all of the skills and they're right on the trajectory that we would want for someone in this role. So let's talk about using metrics and data. How do you do it? A lot of times, one of the things that I see most is people say, well, we don't really have good metrics. They're like, I don't really have that data. And I think it's important for you in whatever role you're at to keep an accomplishments journal so that you can easily start to incorporate that into your resume. So think about like things that you would track as a business, what you would count as business wins, and think about like what was your role in those. You can also include data from engineering, whether it's like uptime, increased deployments, latency. There's obviously engineering has a million things. Sales and other customer support is another great place to get metrics from. Obviously, you need to be able to show that you had direct impact on those metrics. And even if you don't have the exact specifics, like, oh, we increased it by 7%. If you list the KPIs, list like how you were tracking it, list like what were the engagement metrics. So if you're using the language and showing you're comfortable with kind of using KPIs, that's going to go a long way rather than just kind of talking about your responsibilities. So this is one I was working with. I used to work at a company called Return Path, and I ended up leaving there, taking a sabbatical for a while. But before I did, I was helping one of our product managers put together his resume because he was kind of looking to kind of go in and kind of become a senior PM. And but we went through and we talked about all the work he did, and we were able to capture the metrics. And we also included like this nice little external link where he posted actual graphs. Now you can't share internal data externally, but you can at least kind of show some visuals of like, oh, look at the impact that they had. So he did everything around, marketing and optimization. He talked about some of the works and KPIs that he had established for the customer support, and even things like, compliance and navigated 6 apps through GDPR. So he really was really quantifying the impact that he had, not just listing the responsibilities. By the way, I'm going through this. This is normally like an hour-long presentation, so I'm just rifling through this. So I'm hoping everyone is going to have questions, and feel free to start like putting them in the chat because I really want this time to. I'm going to give you the basics, but I want to be able to help you guys with whatever specific questions you have. So very, very important. Speak the language. This is one that if you want to be able to, kind of really have your experience resonate with the hiring manager, you need to be using the right language. So there are many, many things that you probably did at your last job that maybe, weren't used. If it wasn't, especially if it wasn't a product management job, there was things that maybe be called one thing, but in product management, they're called another. So like if you're doing like quarterly planning, well, that's really road mapping and things like that. So I think in this one, I really want people to get familiar with the terms and be able to kind of incorporate them as much as possible into their resume. So I included a couple of links to glossaries and just product management terms explained. So if you go through that and familiarize yourself with those terms, you'll realize like, oh, you know what? We were actually doing that. We didn't call it that, but we were doing that. And that's going to be able to show like, oh, they've got all this skills in areas that maybe you didn't have. So this is an example of something that I worked with the product manager on to just kind of like say like, hey, let's show, because they were coming from a nonprofit and let me see, it was, nonprofit and educational background, but they had some product experience. So we really went through and tried to kind of comprehensively show everything. The reason that I think it's important to kind of break out these hard skills, tools, and soft skills is because this is all the things that a product manager does on a day-to-day basis. So you need to be able to do agile and be agile and do capacity plannings and build roadmaps, but also use various tools. But most importantly, a product manager has to have those soft skills. The number one skill for someone that wants to be a successful product manager is great communication skills and the ability to work with others. So putting things in there around team building and coaching and mentoring and speaking is all really important. Another reason why it's kind of important to kind of have and list these things out is that your resume is probably going to be sent through an application tracking system. Hi, Boomer. I'm giving a presentation, buddy. And if you need to have like the right words connecting. So that application tracking system is going to look at your resume, look at the job description, and just basically suss people out. And it's just going to rank you. And so you want to make sure that, if you're going to be subjected to this kind of automatic thing, yeah, okay, Boomer, believe me, those two words are the things that are said the most in this house. Like, okay, Boomer, calm down. Yeah, it's kind of ironic that we named our young dog Boomer, but anyway. But if you're going to be subjected to application tracking systems, you might as well learn how to game the system. So use JobScan to make sure that your resume has as much overlap with the job description as possible. So all you're doing is you're loading up your resume and the job description, and it'll give you a percentage back. So if you're in the 70s, that's great, but most of the people that I coach and mentor, the first time they do it and they're all excited and they're ready to submit their resume, they get like a 20%. I'm like, don't submit that resume just yet because you're going to get weeded out. I'm going to pause and look at some of the questions in the chat. Greg asks, any advice for people whose company did not track few, if any of these metrics, and did not use KPIs or OKRs and cannot measure them retroactively because no longer with the company? Yes. So in that case, you're not going to be able to kind of use the specifics, but I do think you can still kind of retroactively go back and identify, okay, the KPIs. Like, oh, we're really, like, the most important thing for us was driving new user adoption or retention. So in those cases, kind of after the fact, you're going to have to just do your best to identify, to, familiarize yourself with how companies should be tracking KPIs and metrics, and then apply them as possible. Now, you know, it can be very frustrating because you really want to be able to, you know, show how data driven you are. But if you're not in that company culture, there's only so much you can do. But this is part of what I say, like telling that story is like, you want to go to a place, be like, unfortunately I've worked at places where we haven't leveraged metrics enough. And I'm excited because here you guys are doing that. So, but in the case of the resume, I would just do your best to apply the KPIs and that you think were most relevant. And if you're at a company if you're currently at a company that is not tracking KPIs, be the one that starts to do it. To be the one, just create your own, figure it out, like start to be that data-driven person. Leslie asks, a lot of PM positions require Agile experience. I do not have an Agile certification, but I'm experienced PM. How do you address that in your resume? Well, if you're not doing Agile, you know what? I'm going to let Boomer out because you may not be able to hear him whining. So give me a second. Boomer, you're a big baby, a big giant baby. Well, if you're a product manager, hopefully you are doing Agile right now. If you're not, you're going to, you need to go and get a certification. There's two ways you can do that. Ideally, your company pays for it and you get the Agile Alliance certification where you get coached a couple days and then at the end, you're certified as a certified Scrum product owner. The other way you could do it is if your company's not going to pay for it, and you rather like, listen, I know this, I can do this, go to scrum.org, get the test. Like they have a certain, basically their certification process is you take a test. So I think it's $150 or $200. So you can go and get that. So if you don't have Agile experience, get the certification. If you're in a company, they're not using Agile, that's probably a bad sign. But you want to at least be able to understand the Agile principles and to be able to describe that you work iteratively, that you periodically review your processes and focus on continuous improvement, that you break work down. So familiarize yourself with the principles of Agile, be able to speak about them and give examples of that in your resume if possible. All right, Eugene, we're going to come back to you because I want to make sure I get through the slides. So I wanted to put on like leveraging non-product experience. So nobody's first job is a product manager. At least I've not yet met that person. We all kind of find our way into product management. And you want to be able to show like, oh, hey, the fact that I had work and I had jobs before I had the official title, that work is still relevant. So how do you do that? So you want to figure out like what is important to be a great product manager. And we talked about you have to have technical aptitude. You have to have great communication skills. There's just a lot of things that we do as product managers in terms of like Agile, road mapping, risk mitigation, capacity planning, problem statements, hypothesis, experiments. So you've done aspects of that in your previous job. It doesn't matter if you're working at a movie theater, you are doing aspects of product management. I don't know why I said movie. Who goes to a movie theater anymore? Nobody. I think maybe that's something that I want to do tonight. Now that I'm fully vaccinated, I will go take my family to a movie theater. So how do you connect the dots? It's so easy for me just to say that. So let me give you specific things that you can do. We talked already about the terms and glossaries. So if you familiarize those things and go through them with the mindset of like, when have I done this in the past? You're going to start making the connections yourself. And when I say connect the dots, you're really connecting the dots for the hiring manager. Your entire perspective, everything needs to be written from the product perspective. Don't just, earlier I gave examples of sales. And maybe if you're doing sales, like, you wouldn't highlight some of like the A/B testing or the fact that you worked iteratively or that you worked lean. But we put those in there because we needed to make sure that her experience was being shown from a product perspective. So other things, find people who have made that transition into product management or have kind of made that elevation in the product world to different levels, and steal ideas from them. Go ask them things, reach out to them, do informational interviews. And the next thing we're going to talk about is map your core competencies from previous jobs. So this is a link to a template that like I put together with some friends, and we actually will grade you on it. Like, it'll tell you and it'll show you for all of these very comprehensive things that a product manager may be responsible for doing. No product manager is going to do all of these at a job. But you can go through and see like how much experience do you have, and then it'll kind of really tell you like, all right, what level am I at in terms of product management? It's also very good because it will tell you, you'll go through and you're like, I don't even know what the hell half of these things are. Well, those are learning opportunities, and for you to be able to grow and figure out ways that you can expand your product skills. So that's that's a whole tool to kind of help you map and connect the dots. So this is an example from a student of mine. He worked in a food warehouse. And basically, food's coming in, food's going out, and to the different stores and stuff. And if you were just to go and look at him, or just ask him what his job title was, supply chain supervisor. And I'm so annoyed that I don't have the previous version of this, because it's night and day. But it's 100% accurate. What he did was he just described his job through the lens of product management, not just a supply chain supervisor in a food warehouse. So let's kind of look at things. He facilitated weekly meetings with cross-functional teams. He managed and tracked KPIs. They knew exactly what was coming in, what was coming out, how many pallets were being shipped per hour, how many trucks were going out. Very, very metrics driven. He was looking for ways to optimize team performance and business goals. They were very, goal driven. So there is so much overlap. He reduced overtime by 5%. He controlled budget and expenses. He coached and people up. So basically did a fantastic job of saying like, okay, if I was to describe my job for a product manager using just product management terms, how would I do it? He now works at Apple and is doing a great job. So this is the type of thing that I do with a lot of the people that I coach, is be like, they're not going to understand this. Take this out. We need to change the wording on this. You really, really can shift the whole perspective so that from top to bottom, they're reading your resume and be like, wow, this is a great product person. This is like exactly what we need. So let's go look at some more examples. Another example here of someone who is just kind of describing their job and not really listing the outcomes. So create, maintain, I'll just go straight to the things. So establish the success metrics. That is something that all product managers should do for customer conversion. This is another sales into product example. Maintained ideal inventory while winery was running lean. Served as public spokesman and brand evangelist. So that idea as a product manager that you're the evangelist for your product is very, very big. So these are like, I help people, people have done this. I've seen recruiters, dentists, project managers, engineers. I mean, there's so many things that everyone can figure out a way to show past experience and how it really can improve their product resume. All right, frequently asked questions. Can I revise my job title? Yes. My job title at one company was VP of operations, which was kind of bullshit. It was kind of horseshit. It just was like, hey, we've elevated you up and you're now this. Well, really what I was a chief product owner. I oversaw the other product owners and ran the software. So I changed it. And then I said, as chief product owner, which was my functional title, and VP of operations, which is my formal title, I just described what I did. Once I did that, I started getting so many more job opportunities. So another person her specific title was project manager. And people, there's a lot of hiring manager like, oh, well, if you're a project manager, we don't want to hire you because this is a project manager or product manager role. And they really are two completely different things. But I knew for a fact that she was doing product management. And I'm like, you just need to say that you are doing product and project management. And now she is a senior project manager. Dan, you seem to know a lot about resumes. Will I give you feedback on your resume? Probably not. However, there's a lot of great people that will. So I recommend one community you can go to is Product Hired. They have a lot of great coaches. I'm on there and I have a few things and I love helping people. So I'm always willing to do that. But there's so many. And again, Product Hired is giving away coaching sessions. So please do enter that. Also, there's a whole community out there, Lewis Lynn's Slack group. Again, it's linked here. People are reviewing other people's resumes, giving feedback. You can get tons of great ideas from this community. So really recommend this one as well. Oh, we got through in, I don't know. So let me go back to the questions here. How do you get feedback from interviewers? It's hard. I don't even know. Like I provide lots of feedback and I will give specific details on why people weren't a good fit. But it's hard. People, you can't make companies do it because they're afraid of the legal liabilities. Eugene, to the person who isn't doing agile. Okay. Yep. That's a great suggestion. Lisa's like, how the fuck did I even get a job? And I love it. Lisa, that's inspiring. Okay. I guess we can open up for more questions now. Is that, are you able to like kind of unmute everybody? Or we can just still kind of put questions in the chat section.
If that would be okay, we can. What I can do is I can read them out for you. That is helpful.
Okay, yeah. Well, I got the chat up, so let's just keep doing that. Okay, many applicants do exactly what you're recommended and provided metrics, but miss simple things like customize URL, recognizing they're on a team. Where do you draw the line? Yeah, it's hard. There's so many things like variables that go into it. Like I shortened this because there's just a bunch of best practices. I think just in general, think about there's a book called The Ideal Team Player. And it basically says you want people who are humble, hungry, and smart. Look through your resume, make sure that you're showing examples that you're hungry, humble, and smart. You're showing curiosity. You recognize that you win and fail as a team, and that product managers, I'll tell you right now, product managers are a lot less valuable. A product manager by itself isn't going to be as valuable as a team of engineers. Like you really need to work together and just, kind of show that you're smart and you have a passion for it. During the interview with a PM hiring manager.
Dan, just letting you know, we have about 5.5 minutes left. We'll be
okay.
11:15. Thank you.
Okay, let me, one question. How do you show curiosity in the resume? You show all of the different training things that you did, and you can reference different books that you've read. I think, and you can also show initiative. So you founded or you initiated the company's first X or Y. So those are the different things. So being able to reference the training courses that you've had, certifications that you have, places that you've done shown initiative. Lorden, I think if you don't, if you know the accuracy of specific metrics, show them. And if you're not sure, what percentage did we go up? And you feel like you have a pretty good guesstimate, and it was somewhere in this range, that's fine. Make sure that the range you have a high level of confidence. If you're not, maybe you just show the pure volume of it. Look, we did over $3 million. But if you're not sure, just say that we were driving overall revenue and just kind of keep it at that. But mention the metric, but you can leave out the specifics. Let's see. What if I move to a different industry, but no experience? What kind of show on the accomplishments? If you're moving into a different area, I think you definitely, you want to show that why. It's all part of that, telling that story, and make it very clear as to why you want to get into that new industry and why it makes for a logical next step. It's very hard to do that all in a resume. You need to do it in the cover letter. You need to do it. But part of it is you can, in your resume, you could put a summary section. And this is something that I recommend to a lot of people. They're like, hey, if you're just summarizing, talk about like what type of product manager you are, because you want to set the table for them. Because if they just go straight to your experience, they're like, this guy doesn't even have any AI and machine learning skills. But you can kind of set the the baseline, have an anchoring effect with that first summary. All right, these are coming in so fast. I'm trying to. How do you communicate that you were laid off, fired, quit from a previous job? I don't know. Like, there's nothing like. I've been laid off, fired, and quit jobs, and it's not anything like. It's just you just kind of talk about it, and it's like, well, it unfortunately wasn't the right fit, or unfortunately the company hit difficult times and had to lay people off, or like I decided to leave because it wasn't passionate about the mission, or the culture wasn't a really good fit for me. I would just be honest and open about it and talk about it, and it's more about always be forward thinking and be like, one of the things I've learned from that experience is, for me, I really want to be at a company where I know I'm a mission fit and that I can go in every day and feel passionate that the work that I'm doing is helping the customers. So I tend to take things directly head on. You don't need to kind of call it out and put it in bold letters, laid off, fired, quit, but be prepared to talk about it. All right, I got a minute and a half. Michelle, coming from software development team where the devs were pretty detached from product results, will a side project fill the gap in those skills resume-wise? I'm not sure, are you an engineer or you're a product manager where there's not results that you can kind of talk about? Oh, yeah. Lisa, like being a professor, like that sort of idea of teaching and understanding how people absorb information in different ways, that is something that is incredibly useful as a product manager. Okay, Michelle is an engineer. Yeah, I think like honestly for Michelle, for you, I would say that when people go from engineering into product, one of the biggest shifts that they have to make is they have to go from a solutions mindset of like, how do I build this? And, you have to have that product mindset. What are we going to build and why? And it's all about that discovery, validation, and research up front before, like, in the product development life cycle, like actually like starting to build it is way down the line. That's where you want to, consult with your engineers along the way. So I think for you, I would try to figure out ways that you can show that you understand discovery, that you understand validation, that you understand, and you have a real customer focus, because people tend to think engineers are detached from the customers. So I don't have a specific example, like, side project, but that's why a coach probably help out with that, or someone who's made that transition.